You sat down this morning ready to do real work, and then the day happened to you. A message, a reply, a quick check of your phone that wasn't quick. Another tab, another ping, one more thing that couldn't wait. You were busy from the first minute to the last. You answered everything, you stayed on top of it all. And yet tonight, if someone asked what you actually built today, you'd struggle to name one thing. You were exhausted, but nothing real got made. Here's the part nobody tells you. The problem was never how much time you had. It was how shallow all of it was. A computer scientist named Cal Newport gave a name to the thing you keep failing to reach. He calls it deep work, and he argues that the ability to focus hard on one demanding thing without flinching toward distraction is quietly becoming a superpower. Rare, because almost no one can do it anymore, and valuable, precisely because it's rare. So let's rebuild it from the ground up. Start by splitting your work down the middle. Draw a line. 2 columns. On one side, put deep work. This is the demanding stuff, done in a state of full, distraction-free concentration. It pushes your brain to its edge, it creates new value, and it's hard for anyone else to copy. Writing the strategy. Solving the hard problem. Learning the difficult skill. The work that, when it's done, actually moved something. On the other side, put shallow work. The logistical stuff. Easy, done half distracted, often while you're talking to someone else in your head. Answering routine email. Forwarding. Scheduling. Sitting in the meeting about the meeting. None of it is useless. Some of it has to happen. But notice something about the shallow column. Almost anyone could do it, which means it will never make you valuable. And here's the trap. Shallow work feels like progress. It's loud, it's constant, and every little task gives you a tiny hit of done. So we spend our best hours in the shallow column, and we call it a full day. So why does the deep column matter so much? Newport says that to win in this new economy, you need 2 core abilities. 1. You have to be able to learn hard things, fast. The world keeps changing. The tools keep changing. If you can't sit down and master something difficult on demand, you fall behind, quietly, every year. 2. Once you've learned it, you have to produce at a high level, real quality, at real speed. Now here's the thing that ties them together. Both of those abilities run on the exact same fuel. Deep, uninterrupted concentration. You cannot learn something hard while your attention is scattered across a dozen tabs. The brain simply doesn't wire in new skill that way. Think of a great musician learning a brutal passage. They don't play it once, glance at their phone, and play it again. They lock in on the one thing they're getting wrong, and they stay there, uncomfortable, until it clicks. That intense, focused stretch is the only thing that builds real ability. So deep work isn't just how you get more done. It's how you become someone who can do things other people can't. Now for the strange part. At the exact moment deep work became this valuable, we made it almost impossible to do. Look at how most of us work now. The inbox open all day. The chat app blinking in the corner. Notifications allowed to interrupt anything, at any time. We've built a world where you're expected to reply within minutes, which means you're never more than a few minutes away from being pulled out of your own head. And why did this happen? Partly because shallow work is easy to see. When you can't easily measure what really matters, you start measuring what's visible instead. And what's visible is busyness. Fast replies, being online, looking active. Newport calls it busyness as a proxy for productivity. When you don't know how to prove you're valuable, you prove you're busy. But sit with what this means for you. If almost everyone has traded their depth for a life of constant, shallow reacting, then the person who can still focus has a rare and enormous edge. The distraction of the crowd is your opportunity. You just have to be willing to work in a way almost no one else will. So how do you actually produce more of what matters? Newport hands you a formula. Write it on the wall of your mind. High-value output equals time spent times the intensity of your focus. Read that again, slowly. The work you produce isn't just about the hours you put in. It's the hours, multiplied by how hard you are actually concentrating during them. And here is where almost everyone gets it wrong. We try to produce more by adding time, longer hours, working the weekend. But we let the intensity stay low, Because we keep one eye on our phone the entire time. 4 distracted hours can lose to 90 truly focused minutes. Because in that formula, intensity isn't a small factor, it's a multiplier. And there's a hidden reason multitasking wrecks that multiplier. A researcher named Sophie Leroy gave it a name: attention residue. When you switch from one task to another, your attention doesn't fully come with you. A piece of your mind stays stuck on the last thing. So every time you glance at that message and come back, you don't return at full power. You return foggy, dragging a tale of the thing you just left. Do that 40 times a day, and you never once reach full intensity. You spend your whole life running your mind at half throttle and wondering why the work feels so hard. All right, you're sold on the why. Now the 4 rules for actually doing it. Rule 1. Work deeply. And the first thing to accept is uncomfortable. You will not focus deeply just because you want to. Your willpower is not a bottomless tank. It's a battery, and it drains all day long. Every time you resist the urge to check your phone, you spend a little of it. So the goal is to depend on it as little as possible. You do that by building rituals and routines, so that focus stops being a daily decision. The psychologist Carl Jung is the picture of this. At the height of his career, he built a small stone tower by a lake, a room with a lock and no distractions. Every morning he'd go in and think and write, undisturbed, for hours. He didn't wait to feel inspired. He built a place and a time where deep work simply happened. You don't need a tower. You need a decision made in advance. Where will you go deep? When? For how long? And what are the rules while you're in there? Maybe it's 90 minutes every morning before the world wakes up. Maybe it's one full uninterrupted day a week. Pick a rhythm you can actually keep, and then guard it like it's an appointment with the most important person you know. Because it is. It's an appointment with your future self. Rule 2. And this one catches people off guard. Embrace boredom. Here's why it matters. Focus is a muscle, and most of us have spent years training the exact opposite. Think about it. The second there's a line at the store, out comes the phone. A quiet moment waiting for coffee, and you're scrolling before you've even noticed. You have trained your brain to never ever sit with a moment of nothing. So then you sit down to do deep work, and you ask that same twitchy brain to concentrate for 2 hours. Of course it can't. You've spent years teaching it to flee at the first hint of boredom. Here's the fix, and it's a mindset flip. Don't take breaks from distraction to focus. Take breaks from focus to be distracted. Make focus the default, and let distraction be the scheduled exception. So next time you're stuck in a line, don't reach for the phone. Just let yourself be bored. Let your mind sit there with nothing. It'll feel deeply uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is the muscle working. You can even train it on purpose. Newport calls it productive meditation. On a walk, with no phone, take one real problem and hold your attention on it. Every time your mind wanders, notice, and drag it gently back. That's a rep. That's exactly how you rebuild the ability to think. Rule 3. And it's the one people fight him on. Be ruthless about the tools stealing your attention. Newport points at one habit in particular: the way we choose what apps to use. He calls it the any benefit mindset. We keep a tool, an app, a feed, as long as we can name any possible benefit from it. Well, I might see a useful post. I might miss something. It could be good for me somehow. And by that logic, you'd keep absolutely everything, forever. Because almost anything has some benefit. But that's not how a serious person picks their tools. Think of a skilled craftsman choosing what goes in their workshop. They don't keep a tool just because it might, one day, be handy. They put each one on a scale. On one side, the real benefit to the things they truly care about. On the other, the real cost, the time, the attention, the pull on their focus. And they only keep it if the good clearly, substantially outweighs the bad. So run your own tools across that scale. Not, could this ever help me? But, does this genuinely serve the few things that matter most? Enough to justify what it takes from my attention every single day. Most of what's draining you won't survive that one honest question. Rule 4. Drain the shallows. You're never going to get rid of shallow work entirely. That's fine. The goal is to cage it, so it stops eating the hours that should be deep. Start with a slightly radical idea. Give every minute of your day a job. Instead of a to-do list that floats over your day like a cloud, block your hours in advance. This is deep. This is for email. This is lunch. You're not trying to become a robot. You'll rewrite the plan when life interrupts. The point is that you decide where your attention goes, instead of the loudest thing deciding for you. Then draw a hard line at the end of the day. Newport calls it fixed schedule productivity. You pick the time you're going to stop, say 5:30, and that time is fixed. Then you work backward and force everything to fit inside it. It sounds naive, but watch what it does. When your day can't expand forever, you suddenly get ruthless. You stop saying yes to every request. You protect the deep hours, because they're the only ones that count. And when you hit that stopping time, actually stop. Have a small shutdown ritual. Look over tomorrow, close the laptop, and say a phrase that means you're done. Because a mind that never fully switches off never fully recharges, and it walks into the next morning already tired. Rest isn't the enemy of deep work. It's what makes it possible. So step back and look at what you've actually got. One split. Deep work on one side, shallow on the other. One reason it matters. Deep work is rare, and rare is valuable. One equation to live by. Output equals time, times intensity. And 4 rules to protect that intensity. Work deeply, on a schedule you don't have to argue with. Embrace boredom, and stop training your brain to run. Be ruthless with the tools that mine your attention. And drain the shallows, so the deep hours survive. But underneath all the tactics, there's a bigger idea, and it's worth hearing plainly. Your life is built out of what you pay attention to. If your attention is scattered all day, every day, then your life feels scattered. Thin, forgettable. But when you learn to go deep, the work gets better, and so does everything else. A deep life is a good life. You don't have to overhaul everything by Monday. Just take one block of time this week. An hour is plenty. Phone in another room. One thing that actually matters. And you, fully there. Protect that hour like it's the most important thing you do. Because, quietly, it might be.